do you have to close on the closing date specified in the original contract or the original offer? Usually you don't. I have to remind you that even the contract itself, when it's providing the date of the closing, in New Jersey at least, it says the closing is supposed to happen or shall take place on or about, and then the date is inserted. So when you're making an offer, it's kind of flexible, and so many things can go wrong and so many things can delay the closing. That's why it is on or about in a New Jersey contract for sale. However, when you go through attorney review and you choose a specific date, still as a buyer or as a seller, you might hold on to this notion that, okay, this is going to be this particular date and that's how it's going to be. No, so many things can go wrong. And actually I'm going through a few transactions that have so many things wrong with them that the closing is not only going to get delayed by a day or two or even a week, it might even take weeks. So what are some things that can considerably delay the closing? Number one, title search by the title company can reveal some inconsistencies, missing information, things that need to be fixed before the title company can issue the title insurance and title insurance policy. Number two, and that's such a big pet peeve of mine, when sellers, before they even decide and before they even think about selling the house, they do some kind of renovations in the house without permits. And then of course, before you get to sell your house, you have to go through the process of certificate of occupancy and fire certificate from the town you live in. And when you have any kind of open permits, you're not going to get that certificate of occupancy from the town, and the title company is not going to give you okay to close without that. So when there is an open permit, like it happened with one of our transactions right now, the contractor did the whole new HVAC system a year ago, and they told my client everything was closed out, everything was paid for. But then when I filed for the CO, it turns out that that particular permit was not actually closed out. We still need an inspection from the town inspector to check out the HVAC. When we pass the inspection, and then and only then the permit can be closed and they can issue the CO. Since nowadays the towns use drones, the inspectors can see what you're doing in your backyard. Even if you have a 6-foot tall fence, it doesn't mean anything to them because, as I said, they are using drones. They know that you put in a above ground swimming pool in there. They know about your patio. They know about the little wall that you put outside your fence to give you some privacy from the neighbors. And when they come in for the CO, they can see what has been done because they can compare the pictures from where you're buying the house with the pictures of the house with what they can see right now. One of the transactions that I recently had, the title company found out that the previous mortgage that was actually attached to that property was the second mortgage on the property. Yeah, maybe it was paid off. However, the discharge of mortgage, this one piece of document, was not filed where it was supposed to be filed because, I don't know, maybe the title company thought that the owner is going to do it. The owner thought that he didn't have to do it. So now the attorney actually had to go through all the paperwork, trace it back to the original mortgage. And it takes a lot of time, especially if such a company doesn't exist anymore. Can you imagine what kind of red tape, what kind of paperwork trail you have to go through to even be able to get to that point, to get your hands on that piece of paper? That's mind-blowing. This one might take weeks, if not months, depending on how fast companies work. So just be patient if you're a seller or a buyer because it happens. Actually, from my own experience, very rarely the closing on my transactions happen on the date specified in the contract. 95% or maybe even 99% of closings don't happen on time. Usually it's a day or 2 day delay. Sometimes it's a week, but it happens. I think the longest delay was between 4 and 5 months. I had one transaction that was a 4-month delay, and then another one was 4.5-month delay. Terrible, I know, and so much at risk here, especially if the buyer is taking out a mortgage. What about the interest rate? If the lender can hold the interest rate, the promised interest rate. I mean, it opens a can of worms. I'm not saying it doesn't. Be patient and just do what is required of you. And I'm sure we're going to get to the closing table sooner rather than later.